And today I would like to talk about really important problem and challenge. It's teacher education, its challenges, and some perspectives. I personally worked as teacher, as a school teacher for 5 years, and I had practiced for 2 years after graduation, and now I'm working at university. And I'll personally address my message to young teachers, to those who just start their first steps in education. And then I address my message to principals who have these young teachers in their staff, and everyone who's needing in some changes in education. And the best way to do it is just start from yourself. Okay, well, for many years, a teacher have been one who was a master. And if I can show you example of Russia, since the 10th century, a teacher was like a second parent. He or she was a master. He or she was like a tutor and a mentor, and they were really paid very well that time. And when you were like medieval century kid, you could only learn how to read and write and count, and you were supposed to be a very educated person of those times. And a teacher since those times was one who was giving you all this knowledge. And then after many centuries, I can just give example of former Soviet Union country. And in former Soviet Union, teacher was very respected and was very proud for their profession. And there were a lot of posters, as you can see in the screen, a lot of posters showing the honor to teachers, to kindergarten nurses, and to other staff who is teaching and taking care of kids and students and pupils, and that was an honor. But now the situation has changed, and what do we have now? As you can see from the screen, we had honor, we had respect, but now we also have bullying, and bullying not only among kids and among students, but bullying towards a teacher. And the question, how it happens that the situation is absolutely opposite, and sometimes there is insults from students to teachers and from teachers to students. And of course, there is a modern era, and it's the era of ICT and new technologies, and everyone has camera. And if you don't satisfied with your tutor, your mentor, your teacher, you can just start recording him or her, and it's your right, because you're protecting your dignity. It's very good stuff that a student can protect himself. And that's a problem, that it's not a blame, it's not about a student, it's everything about a teacher. And if something wrong, of course it's about the teacher. And our kids, they just copying our behavior, the behavior of their parents and people around, and only a teacher can change this situation. So, and now I would like to outline some really important points, some risk factors which can lead to the worsening of this situation. And I hope this would never happen. And let's see. First of all, I would like to mention that in Russia, unfortunately, most of the teachers, most of the young teachers, they are not prepared to be teachers. As I can say, well, most of them, they didn't plan to be teachers. Most of them wanted to be computer programmers, economists, top managers, directors, and no one thought they would be teachers. And if you can count in any university, we have like, as example of Russia, but I think the situation is pretty the same in many countries. Well, it's about 100 or 200 specialists graduating from university every year. And of course, not all of them can find the place of work in the future. And some of them, they're becoming teachers. And this is really a worse tendency because they are not teachers. They did not like this idea, but the rest they could do, it's just to go to teaching. And even the second on the second hand, it's sorry. So, and the next tendency is in Russia that there are strict final unified state examination, and if you not entering university with low points, and you can choose profession like a teacher, and this is bad tendency in Russia. So it means that in future these teachers, these young teachers, they would not be ready to work with kids because they will not able to explain information, and they can't find approach to children. So, and I want to tell that probably we need to change this situation and to somehow to make the opposite steps, to do something to change this continuing situation. Well, and actually, well, the problem number 2, we call it like a low paid job. And actually, if you can compare a salary of a young teacher in a rural area and a salary of a teacher in, for example, capital Moscow, it's like twice time difference. So, for example, it can be like twice or three times less if you're a young teacher in a rural area, or 3 or maybe 4 times much more if you're a professor or a principal. I'm sorry. So, well, I'm just losing my voice. I'm sorry. Okay. Because of this tendency, it happens that young teachers also have really extensive workload. And my example was, when I was a young teacher, I had, for example, 30 classes per week, and it was pretty much because actually the normal workload is 14 or 15 hours per week, but not 30 hours. And that's why I decided to quit my work, and I like my children, but I could not work for this a lot of amounts of, sorry, I just I need a glass of water, but I don't have actually one, and I'm sorry. Okay, I just tried to change my voice now. Okay, well, and as a result, most of my friends who were also young teachers, they went to private schools, and they probably became well-paid teachers, but the rest of them, they also in public schools, and the salary is rather low, but workload is rather high. And I just address my message to principals, and please just pay attention to young teachers because they're really overloaded. They need time to prepare for classes because they're not so very well experienced, and they need much time to do it. And of course, the salary, if you can give appropriate workload, you should just pay a bit more than than just they have. Sorry, I just losing my voice and it's absolutely insane. Okay, probably I'm gonna finish soon because my voice is absolutely out of me. Okay, so next problem is outdated methods. So we all know how to use all these SCTs, all this broadcast, gamification, social networks. We also have electronic diaries for students to see their marks, to see topics that were in the classroom, and also to see home task. But what we don't have right now, we don't have new methods and new techniques of communication. And now we have communication between computer and student, or teacher and computer. But we are losing this teacher and student communication system. And I think that we need to change this way, and also to create some psycho-emotional tactics of communication with children. And even I would add to this point that our parents are also interested in their kids' study, and we had some questionnaire that showed that most of parents, they are ready to follow, they're ready to observe their kids' studies since kindergarten till the graduation of university. That's why we need to make a strong relationship not only with children but also with their parents, because most of complaints are going from our parents, unfortunately. Okay, my voice is getting better, so let's continue. And the next trouble that I see, it's a lot of tests and assessments. I think in every country there are some systems of assessments and tests after graduation. And in Russia we have a final state certificate and unified state examination. But it means that our kids are just starting learning since the first form, starting learning 2 or 3 subjects, but the rest of them are out of their interests. So it means that in future we got weak generation, not ready to be very developed in all fields of science. It means that we're gonna have a chemist without not knowing anything about literature, or we're going to have physics not knowing about English language, and so on and so forth. It means that young teachers should mostly pay attention to their subjects and to involve their students, to interest them in the subject. And it doesn't matter if it's subjects of final examination or not. Young teachers should be responsible for making students motivated to study, motivated to read something new about subjects which is not in a final state certificate and is not in unified state examination. Okay, and what I also can tell to young teachers, actually, everything now is going from the internet, and everything we are browsing there. And of course, it goes without saying that teachers should teach children how to use electronic resources. For example, gather, process, analyze information, and most of all, think critically and form a global view of the world. And I think with such a point of view, we can reach, as I said, we can involve students in learning other subjects except those which are in final examinations. And the main point of this statement is just we should teach our students and teach future teachers to think critically. Okay, well, and now let's outline the most important points. Of course, I mentioned unqualified personnel because many of young teachers, they're not ready to teach. Probably it was not their choice originally. And if you teach young teachers, you should tell them that they should start see them as a future teachers as soon as possible from the first year of study. Or you can, if you're a teacher, if you see as your pupils are interested in teaching profession, I think you should tell them how difficult it is and but how proud it's to be a teacher. And a second risk factor, I repeat, it's inability to work with children, and unfortunately it happens. There are some good teachers with absolutely excellent skills, excellent knowledge of subjects, and they're real scientists, but they can't work with children. So we need such an adaptive program for young teachers. And actually, I know such teachers because I started as a young teacher several years ago. And for me, it was real difficult to start working with children. And the only way I could do it, because I loved children, and without those love, I could not succeed in my profession. And probably I could quit teaching at all, but I just loved it, and just it was my way to overcome this first period. And the third factor is outdated methods. And I also would like to repeat that we should not only change methods working with electronic devices, to use some techniques, to use some devices for transferring materials via internet, but we also need to update methods of communication between students and teachers, between students and parents, between teachers and parents too. Number four factor is low paid job. As I said, it's heavy workload too, and this is point for principals and for those who is tutoring young teachers. And this is true that if there is a heavy workload, young teachers probably can give up this profession, and we can lose new and very motivated, qualified specialists. And last point is just necessity of test and assessment before graduation of school. And we should not just restrict our subject by giving only tests and assessments. We need to teach our pupils to see the world around, to see the connections between subjects, and to think critically. Well, and here you can see some tactics of increasing the quality of teacher education. Of course, we need to raise cultural level of a teacher. We should all the time tell him or her that a teacher is a very respected profession, and this respectfulness will come after some years, and you just need to wait. And first of all, respect your kids, respect parents of those kids, and then love will come, and you will be respected by everyone you work with. And next step is, of course, stimulation of teachers' social activity. And you can stimulate it by, of course, maybe giving them to create, to do something new with children, to use their own techniques. Maybe they're not right, but in future, these young teachers will make something really great. And the third step is updating methods of teaching, updating humanitarian field of this, humanitarian side of this communication. Well, and the fourth step, the fourth step is create some innovative methods to make our young teachers to follow some nice examples of, for example, some nice courses, and to be motivated by teachers who are really successful, who are really satisfied with their profession. And the fifth step is involving in our teaching principles of humanization, democratization, and openness. And openness, especially to students, and openness to parents and those who are around our students. And of course, openness to our colleagues, because it's also important that teacher society is supposed to be example to follow. And the sixth step is, of course, self-analysis. Self-analysis, probably the most difficult thing in the world, even for me, because after each class, you should analyze what is wrong and what is right, and what steps to make to be better next time. And the last point, as I see, it's to try to understand your kids, to try to understand your students, to try to understand young generation, because everything is changing, and really every year pupils and students are absolutely different. And that's right, because, well, I've been working for 10 years in education, and I can compare my first students and my last students, because they're absolutely different. And all the time I'm trying to be somewhere close to them, to know their interest and to motivate them to create something new and to be interested in the subject. Well, what's about time? Okay, so I would prefer to finish my presentation with the words that school is a temple, and as a and the teacher is a servant of this temple. And this temple you're creating with your hands, with your soul, and of course with your love to your profession, to your students, and to your colleagues, and everyone who is around you. And